Hi, I'm Phil. I'm a piano teacher, multi-instrumentalist, musician. I teach on Outschool. I also teach private lessons. And I wanted to try something today. What I'm going to do is play through the Alfred Adult Level 1 course, all the major pieces from about page 30 to 145. That's the last song being Amazing Grace, because in the older edition of this book, that was the last song in the book. I'm going to try to do it in one pass. I've played through this. I even made a video series that got deleted. But I'm going to try it right now as a complete run through. Let's see how it goes. What I'll do is I'll post the entire video and then smaller clips of each of the songs so you can individually look at those, and hopefully it helps you with your studies. This is for everybody. You know, if you take lessons with me, great. You know what the deal is. But if you are just learning independently on your own or with a different teacher, hopefully these videos are helpful. Here's the overhead view. Okay, so we're going to start with Jingle Bells on page 30. If you passed through the Level 1A book, which is my recommended way of doing things, these are very simple with cute cartoons. I like to take you directly to page 30, Jingle Bells, right before we get into triads. So here we go. Okay, so there's page 30. Moving on. Learning about triads on page 32. Very important concept, C chord. Also known as C major, or the C major triad. Make sure you can play that with both hands. Here's Brother John on page 33. Here's a happy song. I'll skip the repeat on that one. All right, very nice. Page 34, what we're doing is we're learning a new note, B, and a new chord, the G7 chord. Now, the G7 chord, also known as the G dominant 7th chord, is a great way to contrast C major. Lots of songs just pass between these two chords. It forms like a narrative, a structure to things. It's better than just music that goes, you know, it's like a movie with no villains, right? It doesn't go anywhere, right? But if we add a G7 chord, all of a sudden it becomes way more interesting because there's a conflict and a resolution. Just like narrative, just like stories. Here's Merrily We Roll Along on page 35. Largo. moving on. Got page 36, introducing the B note for the right hand. So we're doing the same idea, C, to the G7 chord, now with the right hand. Here's Marianne on page 37. Okay, moving on, page 38 and 39. Briefly talk about this. Rest, rest, rest. You want to have these 2 pages down, 3, 4. We want to smoothly transition between our 2 primary chords, C major and G7. Same thing for the right hand on page 39. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Moving on. It's very simple. Rockets. If you did the previous book, level 1A, then you will find this piece familiar. It introduces 3/4 time, dotted half notes. If you're brand new, if you've done the old book, this is old news. Rest. Page 41 is just reviewing dynamics. Not going to play that. Should be simple. What can I share? Slurs and legato playing. Once again, if you did the old book, you know what legato is, you know what slurs are. If you're brand new, this is a new concept. You want to hold the notes out and kind of connect them as you play. What can I share? Page 43, slurs and ties, day is done. Very simple stuff, we'll pass right past that. Page 44, we're introducing a new note for the left hand, that's A. Just simply move your thumb 1 key over from C position. And the new chord is F major. Voiced C, F, A. Now we have 3 primary chords. We want to start by practicing the top of page 45. And just make sure that we have these 3 chords really solid. You know, for the G7, we move the pinky, and for the F major, we move the thumb. Don't move both. Move either the pinky for the G7 or the thumb for the F. This is for the left hand, of course. Here's when the Saints come marching in with the right hand melody, left hand chords. Rest. Great piece of music to practice. Here is page 46 and 47. Now, for the A note in the right hand, you'd figure you just move your pinky, right? But there's a little problem with that because we were stretching our weaker fingers, 5 and 4. So what the book wants you to do, and what I want you to do, is actually move 4 of your fingers, right? That's going to take a little bit of work. And just do this. Keep your thumb glued to C and just move all 4 of the fingers over. This makes it easier because there's a gap that you can get very easily between 1 and 2, and not quite so easily between 5 and 4. And we will work on that later. But what we want to do is do this for now. So for the F chord, we want to play that with 1, 3, 5. Please don't use your ring finger. It might seem like the right way. It's something I don't want you to do. I don't want you to hurt yourself trying to get to this chord. 1, 3, 5. So a C chord is 1, 3, 5. And an F chord is also 1, 3, 5. Let's kind of open up the gap right here. Back to C. Practice the top of page 47. Okay, here's when the saints go marching in with the left-hand melody, right-hand chords. It's a good idea to do this so that you get balance. You don't want to be just good with chords in the left and good with melody in the right. You know, you want to make sure that you're balanced. Rest. All right. Take the repeat on that if you'd like. 48 and 49. Just a basic review. Here's I'm going to lay my burden down. It's only for the left hand. Okay, so before I play page 49, little note here. You want to remember these 3 chords because in about 20 more pages, you'll play these chords. So sometimes I get kids that pass through this and they do a great job, and then they have complete amnesia between the C, the G7, and the F chord. You want to make sure you know these. Waltzing chords is a great way to practice these. These 3 chords are very important. Make sure that you know them. Okay, now at this point we actually move into a different section and we learn about G position. Now, those of you that did the old book, you had G position up here and G position down here. That was in the level 1A kids book. Here we actually go higher with our left hand. So you might want to scoot a little bit to your right to make this comfortable. Maybe move your book a bit. And you should play through everything on page 50. You want to make sure you know where G, A, B, C, D are. Same with the left. Now, once again, if you did level 1A, you're going to find these 2 songs on page 51 very familiar. Love Somebody and A Friend Like You. Repeat. Now, I took the repeat on that because the second time you're supposed to play piano. First time forte, second time piano. It's great to practice your dynamics. Here's A Friend Like You. follow the instructions there. Repeat with left hand 1 octave lower. Why not? Page 52 and 53. Do these pages. You won't have any problem reading and understanding G position if you do this workbook section. Okay. I really like this section where you write in the notes. Please do this so that reading in G position is not a problem. Page 54. Money Can't Buy Everything. This is a cute song. Uses a little bit of a C sharp and an A sharp. Don't forget those dynamics. Page 55 is great. I get a lot of kids, younger kids, that have no idea how the sharps and flats work, right? So do this and make sure that you run through it. Okay, that's a C sharp, it's a D sharp. Say it out loud so that you're not confusing your sharps and your flats, right? Very important. Page 56 and 57, the Leschetizky solution. Don't be afraid of this page. I had really little kids, like 5, 6 years old, that cover their eyes when they see this. It's a little creepy looking, but it shows that the tendons in the ring finger are actually bound to the middle and the pinky, so you need special exercises to strengthen that ring and the pinky. I don't use this exercise myself. I'll demonstrate it, but I think there are better exercises out there later on in the book that address the problem with the ring finger. So it goes like this. Just pin the fingers down and raise each finger individually. Now, no problem so far, but this ring finger, yeah, that's kind of hard to do. And the pinky. Now, I teach really young kids, even in the adult book. And I don't expect, really young kids to be able to do this. If you're an adult and you're learning from the book, I guess the way it's designed, it'd be a lot easier. But for now, if your ring finger's kind of wacky, don't worry about it. Everybody's ring finger is weak. You work on that. You work on that, for years. So let's go to page 58. Okay. G major and D7. So just like we had C and G7 in C position, we're going to have G and D7. Now, really important. The human hand is designed to have the long fingers 2, 3, and 4 play the 3 black keys. It's kind of obvious when you look at it. And you have 2 short fingers, your thumb and your pinky. Putting your short finger on a black key is not ideal, although you have to do it sometimes. So in the case of D7, they want your pinky on F sharp. Now, if I do this, this is very uncomfortable. So what you want to do is push your hand inside the keys. Move that thumb. If that thumb stays in one place, you're just kind of rotating your wrist, rotating your elbow out. We don't want to do this too much. What we'd rather do is have you push in, comfortable D7 chord. So work on these exercises, like preparation for the cuckoo. Slide in, slide out. Okay, make sure you have that down. Here's the cuckoo. Okay, so that's page 59. Don't forget to take the repeat. Make sure you count your half notes. G major and D7 chords for the right hand. Now, I told you that the short fingers are harder to play on the black keys. So the shortest finger, if you look at my hand, is that thumb. It's way back here. First place, second place, third place, fourth place, dead last, right? So curve your fingers. Get in there. There's a little bony part of your thumb. That's the part that I'd like to have you play the F sharp with. Be careful with your ring and your pinky. They sometimes like to pull down the C sharp. That sounds nasty. So watch out for that. Get on the tips of your fingers. That's how your D7 should look. It's going to be a little awkward at first, but you'll get used to it. G, slide in, slide out. Get used to that. Okay, block and broken chords. A block chord is when all the notes are played at once. Broken chord is when you break them up. G7. The secret is don't move your hand. Keep it there on the D7 chord. Let's do your left hand. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Here's harp song. Now, harp song uses the damper pedal, also known as the sustain pedal. On a regular piano, if you have 3 pedals, it's the third one, the one on the right. If you have 2 pedals, it's the one on the right. If you play a keyboard with the little square with the black square where you plug it in, those aren't ideal because they move away from you. It would be a good idea to invest, if you were playing a keyboard with a pedal with a ceramic base that looks like a real pedal, those stay put and you won't have to search for them. Pedal technique, back of the foot's on the floor, rotate and move from your ankle. Don't stomp your pedal. Keep your foot just like that. Here's harp song. It's a lovely piece, and people will be really impressed with you, even though you're just playing broken chords. Release the pedal in between chord changes. Don't let the chords mix together. All right. So you can hear like an audible click whenever I release my pedal. It's an old Branson made in the 60s. And it still works. Let's go to page 62. Liza Jane. Real simple. 4. 2, 3, 4. All right, nothing to it. Fill in these pages if you'd like. 64 and 65. Okay, here's the good stuff. Introducing E for the left hand. You're going to notice a lot of these things that we're doing were the same kind of ideas we did in the previous section in C position. Now, in G position, moving your thumb will get you to E. Okay, simple. Just move it over. It's 2 lines above. It's kind of high on the bass clef. Here it goes. Move 1 to E. Move 1 back to D. Your new chord is C major. And you're like, wait, I know C major. It's this. Okay, short little summary of this. We can do this, but you see the problem is that I have to move my hand so much, right? When we go from C chord to G chord. G chord to C chord, I should say. So what's easier is if you just voice the chord differently and put G at the bottom, then it can easily go from a G chord to a C chord. Just like that. Top of page 65. Let's do this first before we play Beautiful Brown Eyes, because you want to understand the concept of this new type of broken chord. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Repeat. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Here's Beautiful Brown Eyes. There's pedal. There's broken chords. There's a little bit of everything in this one. This is a good technical landmark. You need a certain level of coordination to play this piece. So if you haven't played for a while, if you were good at one point and you're coming back to it, this is a great little thing to check on. Can I do this? If people think that piano is easy, just say, okay, we'll play this song, right? And then you'll be like, oh, it's not quite that easy. Let's go to page 66, 67. Writing E for the left hand. Really important. Make sure you know your bass clef. These little broken chord progressions here. So there's two ways to break your chords up. One note at a time. And what I call pa pa. Pa 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 pa. Polka stuff, right? So yeah, that's the actual term. Pa pa. I know it sounds funny, but really important, especially in 3/4 time. Okay, check this out. Okay, 68. Introducing E for the right hand. Kind of the same idea that we did when we learned the A note in C position. We can move the pinky, but that puts undue stress on these two fingers. So let's open up our hand instead. So let me play through this example. Open up. So everything is 1, 3, 5, right? Broken G chord and the broken C chord are all 1, 3, 5. Top of page 69, warm up using G, D7, and C chords. Here's Alpine melody. So I'm just reading the text here. Play both hands ottava, 1 octave higher the second time. Moving on. Page 70. Know your treble clef. Make sure you can read. Fill this in. Page 71 has a really nice song. I wish they gave it a title, but it's kind of like the opposite of Alpine melody. This time it's broken chords in your right, block chords in your left. What you noticed in the last song, my left hand played broken chords, while my right hand played block chords. Here, it's like the opposite. So here's page 71. Fancy trick at the end. I should talk about that. Cross left hand over to the G. That's an octave above written. So this G is written, right? But your hand's already there. So it's a higher G. Now they could have just notated a G there, but you know, ottava means 1 octave higher. Fancy trick again. Looks really fancy. Nothing to it. Okay, 72. This is like a new section, middle C position. We're only going to play a few songs in middle C position, so your thumbs are touching. If you did the previous book, level 1A, then you'll remember the zoo where your thumbs are touching. Sometimes you have to do this. Sometimes your hands have to touch, and it's just part of playing the instrument. Thumbs on C. So the right hand, of course, is in C position. The left hand is really close to G position. You just move down one note. So none of these notes should be unfamiliar. You might accidentally play the wrong note with the left hand because your finger thinks it's in G position. Your mind might think you're in G position. So just be careful about that. Here's waltz time. We have crescendos and diminuendos. We want to start soft. Repeat with one octave higher. They should have put a slur in there. Editors of Alfred, put a slur at the end of that song. 74. Good morning to you. I'm just going to skip this because it's actually happy birthday to you. You just have to learn, well, two concepts. The fermata, where you kind of hold things out. It's like a dramatic pause. I'll just play the end of Good Morning to You. How long should you hold it? It's kind of up to you, but generally speaking, twice the value of the note that it's on is a good general rule, although you have freedom to kind of expand things. So using the metronome with a fermata kind of doesn't work out. Here's Happy Birthday to You. Remember, eighth notes are twice as fast as quarter notes. Just let it sizzle a bit. Okay, I actually think that this is not a great example of eighth notes because people usually sing Happy Birthday with a swing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. It kind of has a bounce to it, and that's another thing we have to talk about a little later when it comes to shuffles and swing. But you should play this one almost robotically. Happy birthday to you, even though it doesn't feel natural. Just get the concept down. Better ideas for teaching the eighth notes are presented on the next page. Shoo Fly Shoo is played just with quarter notes and half notes in one hand. Now, on the second half, I'll do this whole routine of putting the eighth note in different places. But just remember, when you see that beam, you want to give it energy. Eighth notes require energy. And you can't be shy with your eighth notes. You have to kind of be... You have to be a little assertive with them. Here's Skip to My Lou. Now, even at a slow tempo, right? Right, very slow quarter note. Right? It's a very slow quarter note, but your eighth note still has to be twice as fast as whatever your quarter note is. So you don't have to necessarily go fast. You just have to make sure you double the time whenever you see eighth notes. That's really important. Here, standing in the native prayer, page 77, there's a da capo al fine. For those of you that are not familiar with that, when you see this, you go back to the top and end where it says fine, but it doesn't mean fine. It's not complimenting you, saying, oh, you're such a fine player. No, it means fine, finish. Remember, this is Italian, so that means fine, finish. Here you go. Okay. When we get to the D sharp, don't be afraid of this. All the Ds are sharp, by the way, because when a note is sharp, it stays sharp the entire bar. I shouldn't say all of them because there's a regular D on the Oh Lord on the third bar there. Second bar, actually. So, back and forth with the wrist, just like that. Alright, just add the chords. Okay, moving on, page 78. And I realize I'm probably not going to be able to do this entire thing in one shot, unfortunately, because I have a lesson coming up. But I will come back to it, and I will try to finish the whole book today. So you'll see me in a moment after I log off. Should probably end with the amazing aerobics of Hannon and give you a whole explanation. So, how do we deal with technique and coordination on the piano? Well, we have inherent problems in our hand. And those problems need to be addressed, and they're continuously addressed through practicing certain things. So we have a couple of strong fingers, the thumb, the index, and the middle. Same with the other hand. But we have weaker fingers, 5 and 4. And anyone who plays for any amount of time will tell you the ring and the pinky are a little harder to control. In the best case scenario, they're a little harder to control than the other fingers. So we need certain exercises to strengthen them. Now, the Alfred method book presents Hannon at this point, which I think is a good idea. I'm not a big fan of how they present it because they leave a lot up to the learner to figure it out. So I'm going to try to explain it the absolute best way I can. I'm going to start by playing the exercise at kind of a fast rate, pretty much close to the way I'd practice it at home. Not exactly perfect, but hey, the whole point is that it's kind of getting your fingers warmed up. Now, you're not going to start playing the exercise that fast. You're probably going to start something like this, which is good. Work the fingers through a full range of motion, shift, and move up. So let's just kind of read these blurbs. Charles Lewis Hannon wrote the fourth and fifth fingers are almost useless because of the lack of special exercises to strengthen them. I mean, I don't know about useless, but they're not quite as useful as the other fingers for sure. But these are famous exercises, and lots of piano players who play for years, they know of these exercises, and I use them. So it says on number 1, skip the interval of a third between left hand 5 and 4. I'll just show you in this regular position. And between right hand 1 and 2 on the first 2 notes of this exercise. Now let's talk about this, because this is easy to do in the right hand, right? But this is harder to do in the left. So on the way up, you're working the weaker fingers of the left and the stronger fingers of the right. Okay? But, so let me just read through this. The left 5 and right hand 1 then fall on the note that was skipped. So if we're starting from here, from C, then I'm going to fall on the note I skipped. I skipped D, and then I skip E. Then go to E and skip F. The skip is important, because if you don't skip, then you don't go anywhere. Okay, I'm going to just finish it up. I'll talk about where we stop in a moment. So, after you reach the highest note of the exercise, descend by skipping a third between right hand 5 and 4 and between left hand 1 and 2. So now we're working the weaker fingers of the right hand on the way down and the stronger fingers of the left. So you get the exercise to affect your left hand on the way up and to affect your right hand on the way back. So you want to do it both ways. Just read this. This remarkable exercise gives practice in stretching the left hand 5 and 4 fingers while ascending and the 4th and 5th fingers of the right hand while descending. This exercise is so simple to grasp that you do not even have to look at the music to play it. And you can continue up the keyboard as far as you wish. I have a problem with that. I don't want you to go over here. Nobody does that. It's unnecessary. There is a stopping point. So here's what I'd like to tell my students to do. Take a pencil or marker, and you're not going to write on your keyboard. Don't worry. In fact, if you're worried about using a marker, just use a pencil. Use any long object. Find this A. So it's 2 A's above middle C. Here's middle C. Just place your pencil there. It's not going to hurt the piano. It's just there. It's a wall. Don't go past that. All the hand-in exercises end at this G in the first edition. I'll show you my hand-in book. This is, and all the exercises in the first section of the book have the apex, the highest note, on G. So you want to make sure you turn around on G. So put your pencil on A to block you from doing that. So if we do the right hand by itself, it says actually both hands 1 octave lower. So scoot down to the right. You may want to start this with just your right hand. Remember this. If you're counting, it's 14 times. Third time. I'll just speed up for the sake of time. Just do that first. As I approach the wall, don't be afraid of it. You're not going to hurt yourself. You're going to look at this measure that says as written, right? That's the one you look at. B, D, E, F, G, F, E, D. Don't play C. Look at the next measure. It's G. Now you skip. Then F, skip E. E, skip D. D, skip C. C, skip B, so on and so forth. Now, you keep going. You don't stop, up there. You're about to stop right now. Now, this one's a little weird because you figured that you stop here right on with the A as the first note. But no, there's one more measure. It starts with G, E, D, C, B, C, D, E, C. Do the right hand first, just so you understand it. Now, you can either do just your left hand, starting from... Now, if you have a 61 key keyboard, your very first note is probably the C. If you have a full size, of course, it's the second C on the piano. You can do this with just your left hand. But honestly, a lot of kids, once they do it in the right hand, they understand it and they can start going slowly with both. Which I recommend. Of course, you don't want to just be like, oh, I can only do one hand. Just do both. Trust me on this. We need to get your coordination and skill level up. This is one of the best things you can do. You play a lot of notes, but you make each note sing, make it count, push with your fingers all the way to the bottom every single keystroke. I get a lot of students that get intimidated by this exercise. Don't be intimidated. You can do it. And after a while, just smooth transition when you turn around. And whatever tempo you go, so don't use a click. Just try to make it even. Just find an even tempo that you can commit to. Sometimes we get students that slow down whenever there's a transition. So don't make those fast notes fast. Just don't play fast when it's easy. Slowly get the transition, hop over the note, just like that. Okay, so that took longer than I thought. I will be back. The second half, I'm going to try to finish the book. Let's see if it works. Hope it was useful. I'll see you later. Bye. Okay, so I'm back. I finished my lesson. I hope I did a good explanation of the hand and exercises. So just a quick little recap on that one because it's really important that we do this correctly. We have C2 with the left hand. The second C on the piano. Here's the first C. Second C. That's where your left hand goes. And then you go all the way to G5. G5 is this one, the fifth G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you start here. And all the hand and exercises, I'll say this again, use this range from this C to this G. Now, if you get good at the first hand and exercise, slowly, make sure you understand every movement pattern. If you get good at that, go ahead and try hand and number 2. If you still need to work on your hand and exercises, say that you're on the younger side and you need extra time, just stick with this one. Don't bother with this one until this one's good. Hand and number 2 is a great exercise. Just a little side note. It's the second hand and right, it's written number 2. That's not the second hand in this book. This hand and exercise is actually number 9. But it's a logical one to use in this book because it really kind of stems more from this exercise than the actual hand in number 2 does in the legit Hannon book. So just this a little side note. It's not important. But this is a great exercise. Here's how it goes. I call this one the zigzag because you go up 3 notes, back. Okay, same thing. You turn around at that G. I did not warm up before this, so I'm like kind of panicking here. That's the ending. Oh, it's such a good exercise. I can't emphasize this enough. If you can get Hannon 1 down, try Hannon 2. It is a great coordination exercise. As you can see, I'm not talking while I'm playing it because it takes so much coordination to do. Great great for balancing because, you know, the weaker fingers are on the higher end of my right hand and the weaker fingers are on the lower end of my left hand. So even though that's easy to do in my left, it's hard to do in my right. And of course, you get the same treatment going down. The weaker fingers work on the complex movement in the left hand, and the stronger fingers work on that in the right. Great for balancing out your fingers. Okay, moving on. Oh boy, how do you teach kids dotted quarter notes? Here's the thing. A dot adds 50% of the original value to a note. So you know what dotted half notes are. They're 1, 2, 3. A dotted quarter note is 1.5 beats because that's half the original value added to it. You can't really hear dotted quarter notes on their own. 1, 2, and you have to follow them up with an eighth note. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Something like that. So this exercise right here at the bottom. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Just remember, dotted quarter notes are always followed by an eighth note in 4/4, 3/4, 2/4 time. It's in later time signatures like 6/8 that you don't see dotted quarter notes followed by eighth notes, but you need that to complete the whole 2 beats, right? So dotted quarter note is 1.5, eighth note is half a beat. That completes it, so it's a total of 2 beats. I find it best to treat dotted quarter notes like half notes. With a t followed by a quick eighth note. Here's great examples of common songs that you probably know that use the dotted quarter note. 2, 3. 2, 3. So you see there's a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note in measure 1 and 3. You all know this one. All right. Here's a middle C position auld lang syne. Right. Here comes the bride. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Notice I say a lot of things when I'm playing. I'm counting, counting out things. I like it when students do this, especially early on. It turns it into a program thing, so whenever they see a half note, whenever they see a whole note, they count for the whole value. That becomes a habit, and then you can stop counting out loud later on. Okay, 82. Alouette is a really good example of the dotted quarter note in action. Here it goes. All right. Don't go too fast on that measure, please. Please don't go. That's just annoying. It's not eighth notes. It's eighth notes here. Ba, 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 ba. Don't go too fast. Okay. Moving on. We got sixth on page 83. No problem. Read that. Lavender's blue. We want to be able to jump from a fifth to a sixth at a moment's notice. Lavender's blue. Okay. Don't forget the repeat sign at the end of the second line. Here's Kumbaya. I should move my pencil. Don't need it there anymore. Okay, just intervals. Introducing the 2/4 time signature. Now, just a little note: 2/4 time is usually used in marches. Turkish march. Played correctly. But in this one, the example is 2/4 to 4/4. That's changing time signatures. That's a thing. It happens. Just remember, 2/4 is usually found in marches. 1, 2, left, right. This is an unusual example of 2/4, but it still works. Here you go. Okay, moving on. Writing 6, page 86. Just make sure you know the interval of a 6. We're going to be moving 6 around pretty soon. Hand-in exercises. There's not a ton of hand-in exercises, so I tell my students, don't worry. It's the third one. There's no more in the book, but this is a really good one. It's good for developing your pinky. Hand-in aerobic 6, which does happen to be the 6th exercise in the hand-in book. It's a coincidence. Thanks. Okay, that was a disaster. Dumpster fire. But watch the top. That transition, the reason why it doesn't do this on that highest measure is that you'd have to double the G twice. So if you're going at a very fast pace, like, it's really hard to do. So instead of going to G, that goes to C before the transition, which when you're going fast actually really is helpful. Work. That's how the transition works when playing fast. If you had to double the G, listen. I can't even do it. Who wants to do that, right? So, to get around that little transition is there. Now, also at the end, that's not very comfortable. So instead of doing that, they go like a little melodic F, E, C. Okay, do this exercise and be better at it than I am. Thank you. Page 88. London Bridge. Okay. Things to note here, we're not in C position, but we're in C+1 position, which might disorient you since you've been playing in C position so long. You think that your middle finger's on E all the time. Well, here's the news. Finger number 2 is on E. Finger number 3 is on F. Finger number 4 is on G. And the pinky's on A. To kind of adjust your thinking a little bit when you're in C+1 position. Michael rowed the boat ashore. 4. Okay, I won't take the repeat. It's fine. Page 89. A bit challenging, especially for younger learners. Blow the Man Down requires a certain level of coordination because your hands don't do the same rhythms. So your left hand's doing this constant even rhythm, and your right hand does bum, bum, bum. Play the song. Ritardando at the end. Okay. So, the way I have my students practice this is I actually have them tap this rhythm on their knees. Right, both, left, right, both. Because I want you to physically feel that. Right, both, left, right, both. Hands on the piano. Right, both, left, right, both. So it starts here, then goes here. That tends to help. Once again, coordination is key. Please work on your hand-in exercises. Hand-in 1 at the very least. And ideally, all 3 of the hand-ins we've studied to help you with your coordination. I'm talking to younger learners here. Coordination is key for this next section. Lone Star Waltz. Please make sure you look at this blurb up here about moving your hand in 6. Okay, moving on. Sevenths and octaves. If you can't reach a harmonic octave yet, don't worry about it. You can always do a little jump. But now sevenths and octaves are free game. The book will introduce these in the music and you have to be ready for them. Our next proper piece is Cafe Vienna, page 94. Third bar, watch the seventh. That's going to drag your hand up into D+1 position. So your thumb's going to be on D when you get to that point. Cafe Vienna is a great one. Here's Lullaby, page 95. When you practice this, practice this in phrases, in slurred sections, before you put the whole thing together. Here's the performance. Okay, we're going for beauty. We're going for style. We want legato happening. We don't play loud. This is a really, really good piece. 96. Flat sign. Much easier piece than the one before. Rock it away. We're in G position. We're using a couple of B flats. 3. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. On page 97, just like we did with sharps on page 55, we're doing flats. Make sure you can identify your flats. Okay, page 98 and 99. Here's where we can take a little bit of a diversion into music theory, which is great for understanding what you're playing. Half steps are next door neighbors. The next door neighbor tones. And the piano is designed so that it features all the notes in C major, C, D, E, F, G, all the white keys, right? But in the back, you have to like look for the sharps. That's not really how music works. If you look at any stringed instrument, all the notes, there's no black keys or white keys. It's all along one length. So you want to look not here at the piano, but here, deeper into the piano to see the sharps and flats. Okay, those are all half steps. Whole steps would be equal to 2 half steps. Now you have to be careful because B to C is a half step and E to F is a half step. So if you're just looking at white keys, you will mess up. C, D, E, whole step goes F sharp. It's the whole tone scale. And you can do whole steps starting from black keys. So the sound of all half steps and all whole steps, we don't tend to use that much, do we? We like combinations of whole steps and half steps. So our ear tends to lean toward what's called a tetrachord. And we see it illustrated at the bottom of page 98. And a tetrachord is a series of 4 notes having a pattern of whole step, half step. It's very important to remember that this has to be in alphabetical order. C, whole step is D, whole step is E, half step is F. A good song for remembering the sound is the Addams Family theme. It's actually down here. It's an F tetrachord followed by a G tetrachord. G, whole step, half step. Fill out page 99. Make sure you recognize the whole steps and the half steps. Answers for the bottom of 99 are yes, yes, and the second one, D, E, F sharp, G, because it's in alphabetical order. Page 100, the C major scale. A major scale is 2 tetrachords joined by a whole step. So the first tetrachord is C, D, E, F. Whole step higher is G, and we start at a G tetrachord, G, whole step, half step, which happens to land all on white keys. So the C major scale is the only major scale where you're only playing white keys. The pattern for this, it's very important to remember. You have 5 fingers and there are 8 notes you have to play. So you have to transfer the thumb under the middle finger. You can fast forward past this if you already know this stuff. So your pinky lands on C. So what goes up must come down. That's the concept we use in scales. The fingering I used on the way up is the fingering I use on the way down. Now in this book, they like to have you go backwards from the left hand. You want to put your thumb under A to G. G. Go back up and do the same fingering that you did on the way down. 3. We can try the scale once we do it hand separate in contrary motion, away and towards. It's easier than you might think because your fingers are doing the same thing. All right, come back in. Now our brain likes this because it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Now, once we get that down, we're ready for parallel motion. That's a little different. It's a little harder to do because your fingers have to do different things at different times. Make sure you play slowly. Transfer the thumb under. Now, left hand middle goes over. Okay, we get to the top. Now, the hard part is going down. And your left, remember your thumb hits G. Middle fingers hit E. Landmarks. Your middle fingers meet on E and A, the third and the sixth note. So keep the track of it that way. Middle fingers, middle fingers. On the way back down, middle fingers hit A, thumb transfers in the left, middle fingers hit E. On page 101, if you put a grand staff over these and fill those in, you'll see the scale right in front of you that way. 102, all we're talking about is getting the thumb to transfer smoothly under. So it's all legato. Use that crafty thumb. Don't poke your elbow out when you do this. This is a bad habit. Don't do that. Just have the thumb transfer under. Your thumb's very flexible. It can do it. You need curvy fingers. You need to make a little tunnel for the thumb to travel under when you do this. And my students know this. Practice your scale every day. Every day. With both hands. So useful. Joy to the World, page 103. There's a fortissimo here, double forte, and a lot of scale use. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Fermata. Wonderful piece. 104. More about chords. These are triads. Just move them up. The book doesn't go into detail about major, minor, diminished, and augmented chords. It just calls them triads. And I'm conflicted about that. I understand why they don't introduce it, because it's kind of a heavy topic. But for now, if you just think of this as a C triad, C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, you're learning a good habit called the triad vocabulary, like on the bottom. And this is good to know, because you spell all chords that are built in thirds this way. You skip a letter of the alphabet to name the chords. So yes, do memorize that. That is very useful. Page 105, cockles and muscles. Your right hand stays in C position. Your left hand kind of wanders up. So don't forget your dotted quarter notes. Remember that you want to move your hand during the rest. There's a little rest here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rest. And use that as an opportunity to kind of shift your hand. Kind of climbs up in the left. 106. In the major scale, you can have all 7 of these triads. Say 7 because the 8th one is the same as the first. The most important ones are the major ones, the ones that create major chords. Major sound is a bright, happy sound. That's the 1, C major. 2 is D minor. We don't use that as a primary chord. We call that a secondary chord. E minor, that's a secondary chord. F major, primary chord, very important. G. G major, that's a primary chord. It's very important. A minor, secondary chord. B diminished. We actually use this, but in a crafty way. And then C. So let's stick to the ones that we're going to use. C, F, and G. Lots of songs use those chords. With the G though, we actually mix this chord with the B diminished by adding a F above it to create a G7 chord. Now the G7 chord really, really likes to go to C. Well, how we voice the G7 chord is we actually omit the D, just take it out. It doesn't really affect the chord too much. You know, it's not missing anything when you do that. Take the B and the F, we call this the tritone. We move it down an octave, keep the G in place. That's how we play a G7. So we want to start naming these by their Roman numeral names. This is the 1 chord, because it's the first note in the key of C. This is the 4 chord. The F major is the 4th note in the key of C. And then a G7, because G is the 5th note, and we say 5, 7, right? G7 is the 5, 7 chord. I know it's weird. Roman numeral, Arabic numeral, it's just the way it is. So look right here. This is the blues section, and if you take classes with me, you know that I kind of skip this in the group classes, and I treat it at like its own subject. And I think that's a good idea because there's something we have to do with rhythm that is weird. So blues is an American art form, and it's a mix of the European influence. It's also a mix of the Black American influence in the 1800s and the 1900s, and those styles just kind of mixed to create this purely American art form called the blues. It's very important, and it's a beautiful form of music. Now the formula for the typical blues is 12 bars. So we have 2, 3, 4 measures of the 1 chord, 2 measures of the 4 chord, 2, 3, 4. 2 measures of the 1 chord, 1 measure of G7, 5/7 chord, 1 measure of the 4 chord, 2 measures of the 1 chord. Now what they didn't mention is that if you're going to repeat, you actually go, and then you go something like, to set you up for the repeat. So sometimes it's 2 measures of the 1, but sometimes it's 1 measure of the 1 followed by another measure of the 5/7 to lead you back home. Call that a turnaround. Got Those Blues has a bounce to it, so the 8th notes are not really 8th notes, and if you play it with 8th notes, it sounds dorky. Get that guy out of here. That's not the style, okay? Now, 8th notes are not really 8th notes in blues. It's kind of weird. So what we do with our 8th notes is we treat them like triplets. Triplets are like this. I tell my students, just say hamburger 4 times. Hamburger, 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 hamburger. Then you got some triplets. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to take the middle note of the triplet out. hamburger, 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 hamburger. That gives you a long, short, long, short, long, short, long, which I can illustrate right here with my metronome here. This is tempo, great app. So you see that hamburger, 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 bop, 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 bop. So when we get to these eighth notes, we want to treat them long, short, long. Here we go. Okay. And that's the feel. Bop, 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 bop. It's kind of hard to show students this because it's kind of an older style of music. You don't listen to like pop radio and hear bop, 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 bop. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you hear a bit of a shuffle, like there's like a Muse song that has this, but you know, even that's like 10 years old now, right? So shuffle based music, right? You can call it swing, but it's not really swing. It's really a strict triplet. Triplet, 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 triplet. If we go into page 108, we have Chasing the Blues Away. New element is the natural sign, which cancels the sharp or flat. So you know that rule, if a sharp or flat is in a measure, all the notes in that measure are sharp or flat. Well, this cancels it and means you play the regular note. Here's Chasing the Blues Away. There you have it. The fingerings are weird. You may want to slow down the video and look at how I did that. Your fingers are kind of crowded in this. It's not the most comfortable thing to play, but once you get a feel for it, it's not too difficult. Blues for Wynton Marsalis. There's a mistake in this book. Playing the right hand eighth notes in a jazz style. This is your left hand bass clef. Playing the left hand eighth notes in a jazz style will sound perfect with the walking blue bass note. Editors, left hand. Okay, check it out. Don't forget there's a little rest there on measure 14. Get lots of students that play that with hands together. Very understated ending. 110. Out of the blues section going to folk. This is extended position. When you do extended position, you're going to do a C chord, but you're going to add an octave. And you don't have to do it at the same time like this, although that would be handy. If you have smaller hands or you're not ready for that yet, you just do one note at a time. C, E with 2, G with 3. It's very important. Pinky on C. Now, don't put your 4 in. Don't involve your ring finger. You'll put a very big stretch between your ring and your pinky. We don't want that, okay? We want your middle finger to hit G. and your pinky should be able to reach. I have big hands, but if your hands are smaller, it's fine. Just kind of roll it over. You'll find it. On top of Old Smoky. Okay. So, sometimes you extend, like here, and here, and at the end. But sometimes you stay in the regular position. So look at my hand when we play that. It's important. Okay, we got a C major scale, right? So we want to review our C major scale at this point. It should be looking pretty good because we're going to add another scale. Now, the pattern for any major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Or tetrachord, whole step, tetrachord. So starting from G, whole step, half step. That's the first tetrachord. Second tetrachord is going to start from D. Whole step, whole step, whole step. That lands on F sharp, doesn't it? Half step. You need to remember that in the key of G major, the F is sharp. If you play it with a regular F, it sounds weird. Notice that note just sticks out. Sounds like a mistake. Now, that's actually a scale that's used in like blues. It's called a Mixolydian scale or a dominant scale. Don't worry about that yet. But to make a major scale, the sound that we want to hear, that our ear really wants to hear, we need that F sharp, right? Here's the key signature. Now, the nice thing about this is that the fingering is exactly the same as C major. Just remember that when you see the F sharp at the beginning, they're not going to write F sharps in the music. That's called the key signature. They're already telling you all the Fs are sharp, so remember that. I don't bother with contrary motion, although that is handy to know. You should be able to do that, and that has benefits, but I think it's more beneficial to do parallel motion. And just don't forget that F sharp. And also, yeah, here's what I was going to say. Landmarks, third and sixth notes. Middle finger on B, middle fingers on E. Same on the way down. It's the same fingering as C major. The new trick at the top of page 113 is D with your pinky, replace with D with 4. Sometimes we need to do that because our pinky needs to be available for the highest note of a phrase. So the example here, the reason why we do a finger switch is because we don't want to do this with our pinky. That's awkward. What we would like to do is actually move the ring finger to D so that we have all the notes under our fingers. Here's the can-can. First mistake of the day. Second mistake of the day. All right, redoing that one. I remember the crescendo, so it just didn't register. The note didn't sound. Try it one more time. It's kind of like starting a lawnmower. I had to rip it out. Okay, there you go. That's the can-can. It's a fun piece. All right, in key of G major, page 115. Here's the Marine Sim. This is a good example of doing that trick on all the fingers. Here we go. Ransom. Darn it, love it. Why am I blue? So this is another blues, using the key of G major rather than the key of C major. There's a new element, the first ending versus second ending. Treat the first ending like a gate you can only enter the first time. It says play the first time only. When you repeat, teleport. Travel over the first ending to the second ending. First ending. Here comes good people. Now I'm sighing because I actually skip this a lot of times. I'm going to try it out. Let's see what happens. Ah. This tune never settled with me. I think it's because you have to land with a B and a C. I just don't like the sound of that. This song is weird. I tend to skip it, but it is important for learning the blues scale. I think it's also the fingering, Well, if you're working on this, it's fine, but most of the time I just skip right over it. 118. Okay, obviously, I'm not the best at that. Okay, the F major scale. Now, pattern: whole step, half step, whole step, next tetrachord, whole step, half step. So when you start on F, whole step, B flat. That's a half step. Okay, from the B flat, you have to travel to C, whole step higher. And then we know the C tetrachord, right? We started the C major scale with this: C, D, E, F. So there's one flat in the key of F major. Please don't confuse flats and sharps in this regard. G major has one sharp. F major has one flat. They're not the same thing, especially in this context. So, starting from F, G, A, B flat. Now here's the thing. Usually our thumb goes to the third note. The fourth note. We usually play with our thumb. Don't do that in this one because we don't want to put our thumb on this B flat. Not when we're playing scales. When we're playing scales, we want to keep the long fingers on the black keys. Thumb travels under to C. So the fingering is different. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Backwards, what goes up must come down. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Up and down. Let's try that again. The left hand fingering is standard. I'll try it with the B so you can hear how we don't want to play a B. That note just pops right out. It kind of hurts your ear a little because you're not expecting it. Major scales must have that mathematical pattern in place. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Practice your scales every day. You now have 3 scales: F major, G major, and F major. Practice them every day. Little brown jug. A couple of new things here. There's an eighth rest and accent sign. An eighth rest is, a rest for an eighth note. It looks like a little twig with like a little berry on it. And then accent sign is like a greater than sign. You just put a little emphasis on that. There's a lot of crescendos in this. This one looks a little intimidating, but remember the left hand is always doing the same thing. It helps. Here we go. All right, little brown jug. That was okay. Now, Chiapanecas, this is great. F major scale. Your 3 primary chords are always the 1, the 4, and the 5/7. Your 1 chord is F. Your 4 chord is B flat. You voice like this: F, B flat, and D. 5/7, C, 7. Always move your pinky down for 5/7 chords when we're doing it in this book. E, B flat, and C. F, B flat, C7. Run these exercises. Here's Chiapanecas, 2-page deal. Don't forget there's a double repeat, so there's a first ending, second ending on the first page. There's also a first ending, second ending on the second page. And when you take that ending, don't go back here. Go back to the top of page 2. You're just playing chords on the second page. All things thine. Happy New Year. It's kind of late in the year to say that, but here's the New Year song. Okay. Really lovely piece. On page 124, O Sole Mio. We have this new pattern. Run that. When I teach this, I like to show my students a video of the three tenors, that performance from the early 90s where they sing O Sole Mio, that's Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, Jose Carreras, all on stage together. And they have just a wild time. It's so fun. It's like, so this song is like over the top dramatic, maudlin, if you will. It's fun. Okay, you might have some questions about this rolled chord. So here's what I do. Play it all together. So it's a C7 with the B flat and G. Then do the wave like, you know, you're at a stadium. And this time, we'll do it once like that. And then this time, hold down the notes after you play them. Now go twice as fast. Twice as fast. You got it. Rolled chords. Minor scales. Oh my goodness. Minor scales? Okay, well here's how we explain it. And I'd go into more detail in a private lesson, but every major scale has a relative minor. C major has a relative minor scale with the same notes. Think of that word relative. It's like your brother or your sister, like you're related, right? So the relative minor is always based on the sixth note of the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You got A. And if we play those same notes, all the white keys from A to A, we'll get an A natural minor scale. Right. Same fingering too. It's nice. Here's the thing about minor scales is that they transform, and there's different types of minor scales. It's weird because major scales don't tend to transform, like C major stays C major, but minor is like a flavor. And the one thing that's guaranteed is that the first 5 notes will be this. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. After that, things can change a little bit. So the first change we'll make is making the 7th note sharp. 6, 7, it's G sharp. Try that again without messing up. It's a very serious sound. People think it's kind of Egyptian, Middle Eastern. Those are good analogies. One student said it's like a haunted house. I like that. This is a great version of the minor scale because the regular natural minor, let's face it, it's the same as C major, right? So you still want to kind of hear C. But once you make that G sharp, you've created a leading tone that leads your ear up to A. That G sharp really adds gravity. It makes you want to go to A minor. Right? So now A minor is the important note, not C. Or I should say A is the important note, or the important key. I don't want to talk too much. Here's Jericho. A couple of syncopated notes on the second and third measure. You do need a octave, harmonic octave in the left hand. If you can't do a harmonic octave, this is a great little tip. Teachers, students. If you have a student with little hands, just give them a B right there. it'll sound just as good as the fifth. I'm sorry, as the octave. So if you do a fourth here instead of the octave, it'll sound fine. I'll play a little sample with the octave. Now I'm going to do it with a fourth. Sounds fine. Sounds great. It's very solid. So use a fourth instead of an octave if you have little hands. Here we go. Whole performance. Second ending. Cool. Very dramatic, right? 128. Okay. Let's talk more about different types of minor scales. So we know the natural minor, harmonic minor. There's another minor scale we need to talk about called the melodic minor. Now, for kind of strange reasons, this one is different going up than going down. So in melodic minor, we sharp the sixth and the seventh note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's an F sharp, seventh G sharp. Then we go to A. Now, here's the weird part. We're not going to make them sharp on the way down. Okay? So that kind of gives it a major-ish kind of sound on the way up. And then on the way down, we get to the natural minor. So we kind of get our ear used to that minor scale. So a couple of different reasons why this happens. In the harmonic minor, you have to do this minor third, right? It's actually an augmented second, if you're a theory nerd like me. F to G sharp, right? That's kind of an awkward jump, and it's hard to sing, so a lot of times composers use an F sharp instead to kind of give it a whole step bridge, right? Okay, so why do we not do this on the way down? Because this has a stronger minor feel going to the fifth, right? And here's the weirder part. Wait, there's more. In jazz, we call this the jazz minor. We don't make it different. Right? So if you're taking like a classical music exam, they're going to want you to notate and always think of changing it on the way down. But if you're learning jazz, if you're in a jazz jam, this is all good. Okay. Hopefully I wasn't confusing you too much. This is the melodic minor scale. We're going to use the classical rules since we're learning in a proper method book. Shout out to Elise. Elise is one of my students. She developed this exercise. I call it the Elise. Natural minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor. Just like that. You have a split second to think about the change, right? So just all in a row. So just get them done that way. That's a great way to practice them. Okay, The Stranger, 129. There's a lot going on there. I was a little weird on that one. There's a da capo al fine. Now, whenever you do da capo al fine, you get repeat. You don't take the repeat sign unless they tell you to take repeats, because when you repeat to the top, they usually want you just to end on that fine. Okay. Now I think I can make it. Okay, page 130. Green Sleeves. Wonderful tune. Kind of has this modal feel. You're going to notice an F sharp. So I consider this more of a Dorian scale. Yes, there's like another minor scale. Like you need more on your plate. This is where you just make the F sharp and everything else is just G. So it's A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. If that's too much to remember, just think of a G major scale starting on A instead of G. So this is kind of like a Dorian sound, honestly. There's an overlapping pedal thing. Just read that blurb. Here it goes. Really beautiful. Good stuff. All right. On page 132, sometimes you play major thirds, sometimes you play minor thirds. Quick summary, you can change any major chord into a minor chord by lowering the middle note, which is the third. Okay, so here's a C major, here's a C minor. Here's a D major, because it's a major third to a minor third, right? And then if you take that F sharp and move it down, you'll have a minor third to a major third. Right? It's all math, so it's either 4 plus 3, which is a major third, major triad, or it's 3 plus 4, which is a minor chord. When I say 3 plus 4, I mean 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That works on any note. E major, E minor, F major, F minor. Cool. I don't want to go into all those details because this video is already long enough. Okay, your primary chords. In A minor. Yes, you get chords too, and I'm going to use harmonic minor as my main template. One chord is A minor. Surprise, surprise. The 4 chord is D minor, DFA, voiced like that. The 5/7 chord is E7 with that G sharp, because we want that harmonic minor sound. It's a very cool sound. These go down Moses. Bueller fans out there. 134. We're going to explore the relative minor to F major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? The 6th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's D. So if we take the same notes from F major, but start on D instead of F, we're going to wind up with D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D. Remember the B is flat in the key of F, so therefore it will be flat in the key of D minor. You give it the same treatment. To change it to harmonic minor, take the 7th note, which is C, and sharp it. Yeah, and that's, you have a flat and a sharp in the same scale. That does not happen in major scales. That does happen often when you're talking about modes of the minor scale. So, great thing to practice. Here's D natural minor. Harmonic minor, let's sharp that 7th. Sorry for the false start if you're following me. And then melodic minor, we're going to sharp the B flat to make it a B. C sharp, and on the way down we'll do natural minor. The Elise. Awesome. Try that out. Scarborough Fair. Famous song, made famous by Simon and Garfunkel. It's a folk song. This is not a good example of minor scales. It's modal, and you notice that when you play through the song, you're not playing any B flats. There's a B natural instead. So this is actually more like D Dorian, which is just the white keys. Just like a C major scale starting from D, right? So this is not a great example, like I said, of the minor scale. They use some Dorian examples and don't talk about it, which is, I don't know. It's a little weird. But this piece is lovely nonetheless. Here we go. Lovely, lovely piece. Page 136, we're going to apply that chord theory to the D minor scale. Once again, we'll use harmonic minor, your 1 chord, surprise, surprise, D minor. If you're going to do the scale, Phil, commit to it. Okay, your 4 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, G minor. Remember the B's flat. Right, so it's not G major, it's G minor. Right, you don't want that B to be natural, to be flat. 5, 7. The 5th note is A, A7. Take out the E, lower this an octave. You have C sharp, G, and A. So run this D minor progression. Yourself your chords that you need for raisins and almonds, which is beautiful and a very good example of the D minor mode, the key of D minor. on page 138, we have kind of an odd thing, but it's a good summary in the sense of the concepts that we've presented in this book. So we do the C major scale, a bunch of songs in the key of C. We did the G major scale, and a bunch of songs in that key, and then F major. Well, this song, he's got the whole world in his hands. It changes keys, so it transposes from the key of G major to the key of C major to the key of F major. There's a little tricky syncopation thing going on in your second full bar. I didn't even do it right. I can't start from the middle of that. So just watch that. Both right, left, right, both right. Once you master that, both right, left, right, both right, you'll be able to get it. Here it goes. F sharp. Watch that B flat. Nice little plagal cadence. You don't get the plague from plagal cadence, by the way. Hopefully you don't get the plague from playing a 4-1. Okay. That's just a piece that summarizes things. These last two pieces are phenomenal, in my opinion. The Entertainer and Amazing Grace. Both really, really great ways to finish this book and lead you directly into the second book. So, this left-hand warm-up. Be ready to play that at a moment's notice, okay? Here's the Entertainer. Lovely piece. Really, really entertaining edits. Remember the name Scott Joplin, right? And then one day you're going to play the Maple Leaf Rag and I'm like, whoa, that guy's amazing. Amazing Grace. Speaking of amazing. So we're actually at this point learning about the triplet, which is kind of late in the game. But we learned about it earlier in my talk about how triplet-based music has a triplet, 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 triplet. When you're learning this is like my graduation songs from this book. There are other songs in the book, but if you read this blurb, very popular selections that you have the knowledge and ability to perform. These are great. These are nice. They're good for recitals. I'm not going to play them for you. You can learn them on your own if you'd like, or with your teacher. With Amazing Grace, I always say hamburger fries, hamburger fries, hamburger fries. That's just the way I like to teach it. Triplet one, right? For some reason, I don't know if they're trying to save ink, where it says simile. You know how there's a fancy looking 3 whenever there's a triplet? They leave it out. and there's no reason for that. It's I don't know what they're trying to teach you there, but there anytime you see three eighth notes in a row and they're all beamed together, that's a triplet. They're not eighth notes, they're triplets. Here we go. And I want to leave you with this in your piano journey. I once had a student say, nobody's perfect because I asked them to play it perfectly. And I didn't play this book perfectly at all. I had mistakes all over the place. But that's all part of my journey. And you have a journey going on with your studies. And you will stumble. You will fall. And after, it takes maybe a certain age or temperament or maturity, but you have to just laugh about it. Oh, I messed up. Oh, well. Life is not the YouTube comments, right? Ooh, you made a mistake at this point. It's fine. I messed up. It's fine. It's fine. I'm going to live. I'll make it through the day. Okay. So you will make mistakes. You will stumble. But this is all part of your journey, right? And I want you to enjoy the journey. This should be a delightful thing that enhances your life. Don't let negativity or mistakes or any setbacks bring you down. Keep trying, keep learning. This is a wonderful study that we do. It's a study that's based in tradition. It's been around for hundreds of years. We're in the same league as Mozart, Beethoven. We're doing Bach. Maybe it's not right to say that we're in the same league, but we are studying the same journey, right? We are in the tradition. We are part of that culture. We are part of that very rich heritage. So enjoy this. Really, put effort into it. It is well worth your time and efforts. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it was helpful.